The maintenance bay of Research Station Omega hummed with the quiet sounds of working machinery. Tom wiped sweat from his forehead as he worked on the communication array that had been giving them trouble all week. The station orbited a small moon at the edge of human space, where scientists from dozens of different species came to study and work together. Tom had been working on the station for 2 years now. He fixed things when they broke, kept the life support running, and made sure all the fancy equipment the researchers used stayed in perfect condition. It was not the most exciting job in the galaxy, but it paid well, and he got to see alien species that most humans only read about in books. Today felt different, though. For the past 3 days, he had noticed one of the researchers watching him work. She was from a species called the Zelani, with smooth silver skin and strange markings that seemed to glow softly in the station's artificial light. The Zelani were known for being incredibly smart and logical. They rarely spoke to humans unless it was absolutely necessary for their research. Tom had tried not to pay attention to her watching, but it made him nervous. Did he do something wrong? Was his work not good enough? He had double-checked everything multiple times, but she kept showing up wherever he was working. The communication array gave a sharp beep, and Tom jumped back as sparks flew from one of the panels. His tool bag fell to the floor and small parts scattered everywhere across the metal deck. "Oh, come on," Tom muttered, getting down on his hands and knees to collect the tiny screws and connectors. Some had rolled under the heavy equipment, and he had to stretch to reach them. "Do you require assistance?" Tom looked up, surprised. The Zelani researcher stood beside him, her large dark eyes looking down at where he was sprawled on the floor. Up close, he could see that her skin had an almost mirror-like quality, and the glowing markings on her face formed delicate patterns around her eyes and temples. "Oh, thanks," Tom said, feeling his face turn red. "I dropped some parts." Without another word, she knelt down and began helping him gather the scattered pieces. Her movements were precise and efficient, like everything else about her species. Tom noticed her long fingers were perfect for reaching into the narrow spaces between equipment. As they worked together in silence, Tom found himself stealing glances at her. The way the station's lights reflected off her silver skin was honestly quite beautiful. Her features were delicate but strong, with high cheekbones and a graceful neck. When she turned her head to look at him, those dark eyes seemed to hold depths of intelligence that made him feel small. "You're very careful with your work," she said suddenly. "I have been observing your maintenance procedures for my research." So that was why she had been watching him. Tom felt relieved and embarrassed at the same time. "Research on what?" "Human work behavior and problem-solving methods. Your species approaches technical challenges in ways that are very different from ours." Tom handed her the last few screws he had found. As she reached to take them, her fingers brushed against his palm. Her skin felt warm, which surprised him since most alien species ran colder than humans. "Different how?" he asked. "Zelani solve problems through logical analysis and predetermined procedures. Humans seem to use intuition and adaptation. You modify your approach based on circumstances rather than following set patterns." Tom stood up and brushed dust off his knees. "I guess we just figure things out as we go." "Yes, it is quite fascinating." When she stood up beside him, Tom realized she was exactly his height. Most aliens were either much taller or much shorter than humans, but she could look directly into his eyes without tilting her head up or down. In the bright maintenance bay lighting, her glowing markings seemed to pulse gently with some internal rhythm. "You're gorgeous," Tom said without thinking. The words slipped out in his native English before his brain could stop them. The universal translator unit on his collar usually worked instantly, but sometimes there was a small delay with emotional expressions or slang. The Zelani girl's eyes went wide, and her silver skin suddenly shifted color. Golden light spread across her face and down her neck, making her markings glow brighter. She looked surprised, maybe even shocked. "What did you say?" she asked quietly. Tom's translator finally caught up and rendered his words in Galactic Standard. His face went red as he realized what he had just said out loud to an alien researcher who barely knew him. I meant the way the light hits your markings. It's really beautiful," he stammered, trying to explain himself. "I didn't mean to say that out loud. Sorry if that was inappropriate or weird." But instead of looking offended, she tilted her head slightly and said, "Could you say it again?" "Say what again?" "The word you used, gorgeous." Tom blinked. "You want me to call you gorgeous again?" The golden flush in her skin grew brighter. "In my language, we have words for functional beauty. things that work well or serve their purpose efficiently. But we do not have words for aesthetic appreciation without practical meaning. Your word means beautiful just for the sake of being beautiful, yes? Well, yeah. It means really, really beautiful. Like, beautiful enough to make someone stop and stare. She was quiet for a long moment, and Tom wondered if he had somehow made things worse. Then she smiled, and it transformed her entire face. "My name is Kira," she said. "I have been studying here for 6 months, but this is the first time any human has spoken to me about something other than station procedures. I'm Tom, and I'm sorry if I made you uncomfortable." "You did not make me uncomfortable. You surprised me." Zolani do not give compliments about appearance. Physical traits are simply facts to be observed and recorded, but the way you said it with such genuine appreciation, it felt very different. Before Tom could respond, footsteps echoed in the maintenance bay. Dr. Martinez, the station's head of xenobiology, walked in with 2 other researchers Tom recognized but had never spoken to. One was a tall, thin being with blue-gray skin called a Thylorian, and the other was short and stocky with multiple arms from a species called the Vex. "Tom, how is the communication array coming along?" Dr. Martinez asked, then noticed Kira standing beside him. "Oh, researcher Kira, I did not expect to find you here." "I was observing human maintenance techniques for my behavioral study," Kira replied smoothly. The Thylorian researcher, whose name Tom thought was something like Vel, looked between Tom and Kira with curiosity. "Forgive the interruption, but I could not help but notice the unusual electromagnetic signature from this area. Researcher Kira, your bioluminescent patterns are significantly brighter than normal." Kira's golden flush deepened. "It is a physiological response to unexpected social interaction." "What kind of social interaction?" the Vex researcher asked, all 4 of his arms folding in what Tom had learned was a gesture of intense interest. Tom felt like he wanted to disappear into the floor. "I accidentally complimented her appearance, and it turns out that's not normal in Zolani culture." "You complimented her appearance?" Dr. Martinez raised an eyebrow. "What did you say?" "He called me gorgeous," Kira said before Tom could answer. "And when I asked him to repeat it, he explained that humans appreciate beauty for its own sake without requiring practical function." The 3 researchers exchanged glances that Tom could not interpret. The Thylorian leaned forward slightly. "This is quite interesting. Vel has been studying human emotional expression patterns, and spontaneous aesthetic appreciation is one of the behaviors we find most difficult to understand." "Difficult to understand how?" Tom asked. The Vex researcher gestured with 2 of his arms. "Most species express approval through demonstrations of mutual benefit or logical compatibility. Humans seem to freely offer positive emotional responses based purely on subjective experience. It serves no obvious evolutionary purpose, yet you do it constantly." "We do?" "Oh yes," Dr. Martinez said with a grin. "You should see the reports these guys write about human behavior. To them, our tendency to compliment each other is one of the most alien things about us." Kira stepped closer to Tom. "Could you explain more about how compliments work in human culture? For research purposes." Tom looked around at the 4 faces watching him expectantly. "I don't know if I'm the best person to explain human culture. I just fix things. But that is exactly why your perspective is valuable," Vel said. "You are not a trained anthropologist or diplomat. Your responses are natural and unfiltered." "When you told Kira she was gorgeous, what motivated that response?" the Vex researcher asked. Tom felt his face heating up again. "I don't know. I just looked at her and thought she was beautiful, so I said it. It wasn't really a conscious decision." "Fascinating," Vel murmured, making notes on a small device. "And Kira, when he said this, what was your emotional response?" "I felt pleased and surprised," Kira answered honestly. In Zolani culture, acknowledgement of physical traits is purely factual. But Tom's words carried emotional warmth. It made me feel valued in a way I had not experienced before. "This is why human bonding patterns are so effective," Dr. Martinez explained to the alien researchers. "Humans create social connections through emotional vulnerability and genuine expression. Most species find it terrifying, but it works." Tom was starting to feel overwhelmed by all the attention. I really was just being honest. Humans compliment each other all the time. It's not that big a deal. "But it is a big deal," Kira said softly. "You shared a genuine reaction without knowing how I would respond. You made yourself vulnerable by expressing appreciation. That requires considerable courage. Courage? Tom laughed. I was just stating a fact. No, the Vex researcher said, all four eyes focused on Tom. You were sharing a subjective emotional response with no guarantee of reciprocation. In our culture, such an action would require formal protocols and extensive preparation. Vel nodded agreement. Thylorians would never offer unsolicited aesthetic appreciation to an unfamiliar individual. The social risk would be considered unacceptable. Tom looked around at all of them. So you're telling me that calling someone beautiful is considered brave by alien standards? Extraordinarily brave, Kira said. And your willingness to do it spontaneously without calculation or preparation demonstrates something remarkable about human social evolution. What's remarkable about it? Dr. Martinez grinned. You'll have to wait for their research reports to find out. But I will say this much. The way humans form instant emotional connections is something most species in the galaxy wish they could understand better. The communication array behind them gave a soft chime, indicating that Tom's repairs had been successful. He had completely forgotten about his work during the conversation. The array is working perfectly now, Vel observed, checking his readings. Tom, your repair techniques are highly efficient despite appearing chaotic and intuitive. Thanks, I think. Kira stepped closer to Tom again. Would you be willing to participate in more cultural exchange discussions? Your perspective on human social behavior would be invaluable for my research. Tom found himself looking into those deep, dark eyes again. You want to study me? I want to understand how humans create connection so easily, and I want to learn more about compliments and aesthetic appreciation. Her skin flushed golden again. For research purposes. The way she said research purposes made Tom suspect there might be more to it than pure scientific curiosity. But he was not going to complain. Sure, I'd be happy to help with your research. Excellent, Dr. Martinez said. I'll make sure Tom has time in his schedule for cultural exchange activities. This could lead to some very interesting developments. As the other researchers filed out of the maintenance bay, chatting excitedly about human social behaviors and emotional expression patterns, Kira lingered behind. Tom, she said quietly, thank you for calling me gorgeous. No one has ever said anything like that to me before. Well, it was true. You are gorgeous. Her skin lit up golden again and she smiled that transforming smile. Say it again, Tom grinned. You're gorgeous, Kira. I think I could get used to human compliments, she said softly. As she walked away to join the other researchers, Tom realized that his accidental slip of the tongue might have started something much bigger than just a cultural exchange. Something that could change how different species understood each other, and it all started because he couldn't keep his mouth shut around a beautiful alien girl. 3 days after the incident in the maintenance bay, Tom discovered that word had spread throughout the entire research station. He learned this when Commander Orcs, a massive reptilian saurian who normally never spoke to maintenance staff, stopped him in the corridor. Human Tom? Commander Orcs said in his deep, rumbling voice. I have heard about your aesthetic appreciation display toward researcher Kira. I require explanation of this human behavior. Tom nearly dropped his toolkit. Commander Orcs was the station security chief and stood nearly 8 feet tall with dark green scales and glowing amber eyes. Having him ask about compliments was like having a dragon inquire about flower arrangements. You want to know about compliments? Tom asked. Yes. My species evaluates others based on combat prowess and territorial achievements, but humans seem to appreciate qualities that serve no survival function. This is confusing to me. Before Tom could answer, Dr. Chen from the linguistics department appeared around the corner with 2 more alien researchers in tow. One was a floating, jellyfish-like being called a Nethys, and the other was a crystalline creature whose species name Tom could never pronounce correctly. Tom, perfect timing, Dr. Chen said excitedly. These researchers have been asking about human emotional expression patterns ever since they heard about your conversation with Kira. Would you mind answering a few questions? Tom looked around at the small crowd gathering in the corridor. Here, right now? The questions are simple, the Nethys said, its voice coming from a translation device since it communicated through bioluminescent patterns. We wish to understand why humans offer positive emotional feedback without expectation of reciprocal benefit. I don't understand the question, Tom admitted. The crystalline being's surface shifted colors as it spoke. When you told researcher Kira she was gorgeous, what did you hope to gain from this exchange? Gain? I wasn't trying to gain anything. I just thought she looked beautiful. So I said so. The aliens exchanged what Tom was beginning to recognize as the universal look of confusion that most species got when trying to understand human behavior. But there must have been some purpose, Commander Erix insisted. No action is without motivation. The motivation was that I wanted her to know I thought she was beautiful. That's it. Dr. Chen was taking notes frantically. This is exactly what we've been discussing in the xenopsychology department. Humans offer emotional gifts without requiring payment or reciprocation. It's a completely alien concept to most species. Emotional gifts? Tom repeated. That's what we're calling compliments and expressions of appreciation, Dr. Chen explained. To most alien cultures, positive emotional feedback is something that must be earned through specific achievements or granted through formal protocols. Humans just give it away freely, because it makes people feel good, Tom said. What's complicated about that? The Nethys pulsed several different colors before its translator spoke. In our culture, emotional energy is considered a finite resource. To waste it on unnecessary expressions would be considered foolish and destructive. But it's not waste if it makes someone happy, Tom argued. Happiness serves no evolutionary purpose, the crystalline being stated. Tom stared at it. Are you serious? Happiness is the whole point. The point of what? Of everything, of life. Of getting up in the morning and doing your job and spending time with people you care about. If you're not happy, what's the point? The gathered aliens went completely silent. Tom realized he might have said something profound by accident, but he wasn't sure what. Dr. Chen broke the silence. This is why the Galactic Council is so interested in human psychology. Most species view existence as a series of survival challenges to be overcome efficiently. Humans seem to view it as an experience to be enjoyed. Well, yeah, Tom said. Why would you want to just survive when you could actually live? Before anyone could respond, Kira appeared at the end of the corridor. She had been looking for Tom, he realized, because her face lit up when she saw him. Tom, there you are. Dr. Martinez wants to speak with both of us about organizing a cultural exchange presentation. She noticed the crowd of aliens surrounding him. What is happening here? Tom was explaining human happiness theory, Dr. Chen said with obvious excitement. Happiness theory? Kira looked confused. Commander Erix stepped forward. The human believes that positive emotional states are the primary purpose of existence rather than survival optimization. That's not theory, Tom said. That's just obvious. Kira's markings began to glow brighter. Tom, could you explain what you mean by happiness being the point of life? Tom found himself in the strange position of explaining basic human philosophy to a group of highly intelligent aliens in a corridor. Look, we all have to eat and sleep and work and stay safe. Those are just the basics that keep us alive. But the reason we want to stay alive is so we can experience good things, like friendship and love and beauty and achievement and laughter. The survival stuff is just so we can get to the happiness stuff. But happiness is temporary and unreliable, the crystalline being pointed out. So you have to keep finding it again. That's what makes life interesting. The Nethys pulsed rapidly. This explains much about human risk-taking behavior. You pursue uncertain positive outcomes despite potential negative consequences. Sure, if you never take risks, you never get rewards. But you also never experience failures or disappointments, Commander Erix said. Right. And that sounds boring as hell, Tom replied. Then immediately felt embarrassed for swearing in front of a security commander. But Commander Erix made a sound that might have been laughter. Boring. Yes, I'm beginning to understand. Kira stepped closer to Tom. This is why your compliment affected me so strongly. You took an emotional risk to offer me a moment of happiness, expecting nothing in return. I expected you to feel good about yourself. That's something. But it benefits you in no measurable way. It benefits me because I like making people happy. When you smiled after I called you gorgeous, that made me happy too. Dr. Chen was writing so fast his pen was smoking. Reciprocal emotional amplification through voluntary positive expression. This is groundbreaking research material. The gathering crowd was starting to block the corridor, and other station personnel were having to squeeze past them. Tom realized this conversation had grown beyond anything he was qualified to handle. Maybe we should continue this somewhere with more space, he suggested. Excellent idea, Kira said. Dr. Martinez is waiting for us in conference room 7. Perhaps our new friends would like to join us for a more formal discussion. Commander Orcs nodded solemnly. I will attend. This human happiness theory requires further investigation. An hour later, Tom found himself sitting at a conference table surrounded by representatives from 8 different alien species, 3 human researchers, and Kira. Dr. Martinez had called it an impromptu cultural exchange session, but it felt more like Tom was being studied under a microscope. So let me make sure I understand correctly, said Dr. Voss, a thin humanoid with gray skin called a Centaurian. Humans regularly offer compliments, encouragement, and expressions of appreciation without formal request or compensation. Every day, Tom confirmed. We tell people they look nice, or they did good work, or we're proud of them, or we appreciate something they did. It's just normal. And this creates positive emotional states in both the giver and receiver? Usually, yeah. Dr. Voss made notes on his tablet. Fascinating. In Centaurian culture, emotional acknowledgement is reserved for significant achievements or formal ceremonies. Casual, positive feedback would be considered meaningless. But that's exactly why it's meaningful, Kira interjected. Because it's not required or expected, it carries genuine emotional weight. Tom smiled at her. Exactly. When someone compliments you just because they want to, it means they were really thinking about you as a person. This concept of thinking about others as persons rather than functional entities is uniquely human, observed the Nethys representative. Most species categorize individuals by role and capability. Humans see each other as individuals with inherent worth beyond function, Dr. Martinez explained. This leads to emotional investment in others' well-being and happiness. Commander Orcs leaned forward. But how do you maintain social order if individuals are valued beyond their utility to the group? The individuals choose to be useful because they want to contribute, Tom said. It's not forced. People work better when they feel valued and appreciated. This is why human teams often outperform more technically advanced species. Dr. Chen added, emotional motivation is incredibly powerful when properly channeled. A new voice joined the conversation from the conference room's communication system. This is Captain Reed speaking from the bridge. I apologize for the interruption, but we have received a priority communication from the Galactic Council. They are requesting an immediate report on human social bonding research. Dr. Martinez looked surprised. The Council is asking about our cultural exchange program? More specifically, they want information about human complement behavior and its effects on interspecies cooperation. Apparently, word of today's discussions has reached the diplomatic community. Tom felt a chill run down his spine. Are we in trouble? On the contrary, Captain Reed's voice continued. The Council is very interested in implementing human emotional intelligence techniques in multi-species diplomatic negotiations. They want to know if we can provide formal training on human social bonding methods. The conference room fell silent. Tom looked around at the faces staring at him and realized that his accidental compliment to Kira had somehow reached the highest levels of galactic government. Tom, Dr. Martinez said slowly, how would you feel about becoming humanity's first ambassador of emotional intelligence? I don't even know what that means. Kira reached over and touched his hand. It means teaching other species how to connect with each other the way humans do, how to offer genuine appreciation and create positive emotional bonds. But I'm just a maintenance guy. I fix broken equipment. And you fixed something that was broken between species, Commander Orcs said quietly. You showed us that emotional connection does not require weakness or vulnerability. It requires courage and generosity. The Centaurian researcher looked up from his notes. Tom, when you complimented Kira, you demonstrated something most species have never learned. You showed that it is possible to make others feel valued without diminishing yourself. That's because making other people feel good makes me feel good too, Tom said. It's not complicated, but it is revolutionary, the Nethys said through its translator. Most species view emotional energy as finite. You have shown us that positive emotions multiply when shared rather than dividing. Dr. Martinez was grinning widely. Tom, what you've stumbled onto here could change how the entire galaxy approaches diplomacy and cooperation. Are you willing to help us develop a formal program? Tom looked around the table at all the alien faces watching him hopefully. Then he looked at Kira, whose silver skin was glowing with warm golden light. Will Kira be my co-ambassador? He asked. Kira's smile could have powered the entire station. I would be honored to help you teach the galaxy about human emotional intelligence. Then yes, Tom said. But I have one condition. What's that? Dr. Martinez asked. We start every session by teaching people how to give genuine compliments, because everyone deserves to hear something nice about themselves. Commander Erix made that rumbling sound again. You know, Tom, you are quite remarkable for a maintenance worker. Tom grinned. Thanks, Commander. You're pretty awesome yourself for a giant scary reptile. The entire room erupted in what Tom could only describe as multi-species laughter. Even the crystalline being's surface sparkled with what seemed like amusement. I think this is going to work very well, Kira said softly, her hand still touching his. Yeah, Tom agreed, looking around at the room full of aliens who were learning to appreciate human emotional honesty. I think it's going to be gorgeous. Kira's skin blazed with golden light and she leaned closer to whisper, Say it again. But this time, Tom wasn't embarrassed at all. He was proud to be human, proud to represent a species that had figured out how to make each other happy just by being genuine, and he was especially proud that his people's greatest strength might help bring the galaxy closer together. Gorgeous, he said clearly, so everyone could hear. Absolutely gorgeous. The future of interspecies relations had never looked brighter.